So I decided to try and beat Dying Light before Dying Light the Beast launches, on the Nightmare difficulty. You know, the difficulty where zombies hit harder than your DoorDash bill. To make this playthrough even more difficult, I will be challenging myself to do the following. Beat the game before September 18th, edit and post a video before September 19th, prohibit myself from using special outfits that give me a certain type of boost or buff, limit the farming of components, weapons and levels, play the main missions only, no side quests. We play as Kyle Crane, a GRE operative that was deployed into the infectious city of Harran to retrieve a stolen file from someone by the name of Kadir Suleiman. While parachuting down, I managed to get our parachute all tangled up into a pole and slam my face right into the concrete. After which 3 unknown dudes woke up and give me a beatdown, followed by an infected walking up and mistaking us for breakfast. I then get saved by 2 runners while questioning how a highly trained operative managed to get into this bad of a situation to begin with. Unfortunately, the runner that saved us, Amir, ends up getting overrun by a horde of infected and gets taken down while we get dragged to safety by the other runner, Jade. We wake up in a bed that isn't our own, scare some kids, and then get scolded for being lazy. It's already relatable. In search of the boss, we find this random teenager pretending to be the boss and tells us about a guy that is trapped on the 13th floor. We decide to take the elevator up to the 13th floor. We find this guy in a room and we one-tap the infected with our pipe and confirm that our pal Mark here is okay. We find our way back to Raheem, who is planning some type of explosive trap, while his sister Jade wants us to prevent Raheem from unaliving himself. Then we head to the top of the building where Raheem throws his insane one-liner. Then jump down and Raheem tells us not to blow our load just yet, so we do a little bit of parkour training and finish by finally blowing our load. Now we get to go out and I end up testing my own strength by throwing a gas canister just to drop it on my pinky toe and have it blown right off. We make it to the doctor's trailer to get our vaccine and overhear the doctor complaining about his shitty Wi-Fi connection. He gives us a shot of antizin, which we learn is a virus suppressant because there's no cure. He also shows off his gamer posture straight out of a 12-hour league session. We then get asked by Jay to clear out an overtaken save zone, which ends up in us slowly tickling the infected to death with our pipe. After finally clearing out the infected, we turn on the switch and secure the save zone. Spike then contacts us about setting up some traps nearby for a nighttime mission that Brecken and his squad have planned out for the night. After arming the car traps, we head over to another area to prepare a bunch of light traps for this nighttime mission. After arming all the traps, we seem to have blown a breaker or something, and the Spike tells us to head over to the nearest power distribution panel to fix the light problem. Once we make it there, we get introduced into a new type of infected called a goon, that on my first interaction with him blows me to pieces, marking our first death of the playthrough. After making it back, I strategically do a hit and run as many times as necessary until I finally manage to kill him. We get the power turned back on and rush back to the nearest save zone where we witness a weird kind of green infected. After a good night's rest, we make it back to the tower where we convince Brecken, who got screwed up pretty bad from last night's run, to leave the next run over to us. After making our way to the first airdrop, we see some guys made it there before us. Tried to fight them for a bit, but ultimately I gave up. I ended up rushing to the airdrop, taking some of the supplies, and continuing to the other airdrop location. When we get there, we find a whole crate of antizin. We will let our GRE friends convince us to burn all of it in order to find the guy responsible for the stolen file, but not before taking a singular vial for ourselves. We are then introduced to another type of infected, which is called a volatile. We rush back to the tower at Mach 10 to ensure our safety. Our plan to dispose of the antizin in order to meet up with the supposed file thief, introduced as Rais, has worked, and I volunteer to pay this Rais a visit in order to obtain some antizin for the people at the tower. On my way there, I stumbled upon some guys surrounding a silver crate before getting overconfident in my ability to dodge and getting killed by an infected, marking our second death of the playthrough. When we finally arrive, we see a familiar face and see Rais cutting off some guy's hand in the background. Rais then tells us that we have to do some tasks in order to get a crate of antizin, and tells us to visit Kareem, who can provide us with more information on these tasks. Our first task is to turn on the antenna's main power in order to improve the quality of communication over radio. To access the power, we first have to kill a goon, which ends up being easier than I thought due to him blowing himself to pieces. After dealing with the rest of the infected, we are introduced to another new type of infected called the Toad, which spits venomous mucus. A quick double hit combo takes him out, letting us climb to the top of the tower and finish our task. It seems, however, that the antenna has scavenged for parts, but with a tad of dark magic, we can bring it back and make finishing this task a breeze. After coming back, Rais is still not satisfied, but he promises to give us another crate of antizin if we complete a secondary task. We are then tasked to retrieve some payments from a few places. We start out with Jafar, whose legs we threaten to break, and while we're on our way to another location, we get introduced to yet another new type of infected, the Bomber, which, you guessed it, explodes like a bomb. After finally making it to the other location, we get the payment, after which we are called in to retrieve an envelope with blueprints in it. We, however, get shot on arrival, but fortunately, I remember that I had some grenades from that airdrop that I took earlier, and started chucking them at the armed man, easily obtaining our first gun in this playthrough. After heading back, we are met with Rais stumbling around for seemingly no reason, and then goes back on our deal, and supplies us with just 5 vials of antizin. Brecken gets so angry he starts punching his TV, after which we head up and check on Raheem, who is on the roof, where we find him totally wasted and rambling about blowing up that volatile nest he mentioned earlier, nearly falling to his death and giving us the stink eye. We then meet up with Jade to figure out a way to get into the school Rais seemingly stores his antizin in. We make it into the school where I find some of Rais's men who set off an alarm. I then take them all out with the bow that I crafted and finally turn off the alarm. I then take out a bunch more of Rais's men, take this guitar lesson book, and meet up with Jade in the basement. We discover a bunch of plastic explosives, but soon after we hear some of Rais's men approach. We tell Jade to take the explosives back to the tower while we deal with them. This gives me the perfect opportunity to try this pistol that I found earlier in a police van. While leaving, we witness the green goblin of an infected once again, and we are finally introduced to it as a bolter. When we head back to the tower, we confront Rahim about the explosives and tell him not to attempt blowing up the nest and leave it to us. He suspiciously gives up on the idea quite quickly. I then head out during nighttime to snipe this bolter and get his tissue before getting jumped by LeBron James. The next day I found out that Rahim went to the Volatile Nest to plant the bombs himself. I slowly take out this horde of infected before confronting him. Rahim tells me that he armed the bombs and it will blow up in less than 5 minutes. I then take the explosives to plant them accordingly, which is pretty easy because you can't seem to take damage during this animation. Just before leaving the premises, I break an entire shed with my sheer body weight and finally watch the building come down. We return to the Rahim and find out that he has turned, and we put him down quietly, followed by a superior piece of dialogue.
You goddamn stupid fucking kid!
We inform Brecken about what happened to Rahim and we discuss it further back at the tower, only for Jade to comically enter and exit the room. We then hear large explosions coming from Zere's place. We jump out the window and head towards it to see Rais's men surrounding the trailer, which I take out swiftly with my bow. After, Malik here tells us that they took Zere and drove off, followed by a whole minute of absolute silence.
Oh, shit.
We head to Rais's tower and take out some of his foes. We don't talk about my gun accuracy here. After taking them out and climb to the top of the tower, we can enter the building. Once we get all the way down to the basement, we take out more of his foes and search for Dr. Zere, who we find locked behind this door. Shortly after, the lights go out and we are surrounded by Rais and his thugs. He then stabs Zere in the leg, knocks us out, and brings us to his arena. Once in the arena, we get up, push a bunch of infected into some spikes to kill them easier, die, and get a machete, as well as a big gift from Rais. This big container holds a new type of infected called the Demolisher, who can dash, throw rocks, and overall is pretty hard to kill. We get some good hits in early, shredding his armor, which allows us to deal more damage to him. After he gets to lower health, a few virals spawn, in which I mostly ignore to take down the Demolisher, thinking this would result into the next cutscene. Alas, this wasn't the case, and I die yet again. I managed to kill the last viral, which takes us to the next cutscene. We learned that the file we were meant to retrieve for the GRE held information about them wanting to weaponize the Harran virus. We then get to witness probably the coolest cutscene in the entire game.
Alright. Kill him.
When checking on Zere, we promise to put his research to good use as we watch him pass away. We are then comically shot at without getting hit a single time while climbing an entire fence, and forced to take a long runway while simultaneously being gunned down by Rais's men. After a bit of running, we make it outside and have another stroke, after which we black out and wake up at the pier where Brecken has brought us. We are now tasked to find Jade, who's carrying Zere's research, and get it over to Dr. Camden, who's located in a completely different part of the city. Brecken tells us that in order to get there, we'll need to talk to a group of survivors called the Saviors, who provide help to the people that wish to travel over there. After paying one of them a visit and refusing to cooperate until we mention that we are the ones that cut up Rais, he talks to his buddies and then they set us up for our travels to Old Town. We meet up with one of the Saviors and he walks us through the sewers, where he eventually opens up a pathway which we have to swim through, climb up, and kill a few infected on the way. We then learn that we have been betrayed because they wish to protect their precious jewels. Here we swim through some sewer water while being ambushed, and in the next room, one of Rais's thugs pulls an astonishing move to dodge my shots before inevitably getting shot in the head. Once we make our way further up, I take out a few more of Rais's thugs, and then we finally make it into Old Town. After meeting up with Savvy and Troy for the first time, we learn that Jade was the last seen at the university. I then take some time to grab a few underwater algae to craft myself some boosters, which will come in handy later. Troy calls us in to check out some new information on what's going on in the outside world, and we learn that the Ministry is lying to the public about there being no survivors left in Harran. Their plan is to bomb the city to get rid of all the infected, including the last few survivors that are still within the city. In order to get the world's attention, we plant explosives in another building to form a frowning face to prove that there's still human life within Harran. However, an airstrike shortly follows, destroying the visual of the frowning face and so the proof of any existing human lives. Jade, after seeing what we did, agrees to meet up. However, when we arrive, we find out that Rais got to her first and took her to the museum to toy with us. To get into the museum, we dive into the water and then swim. Swim. And swim again. Until we finally make it into the museum, where we get confronted by Rais. I then use a resistance booster that I crafted with the underwater algae that I obtained earlier, and got to work shooting Rais's thugs with my bow. We then suffer from a seizure once again, indicating that we are slowly running out of time before we find Jade a bit further up ahead. Rais then lets in a huge horde of infected, which I easily take out with my shotgun, after which we try to leave the museum before Jade collapses in front of our own eyes. Jade says she's okay, but Rais lets us know that she was infected hours ago, and then throws us a shot of antizin to force us to make a decision. We then end up in this weird hallucination floaty world thing. At the end of the hallucination, Jade seems to have turned, but then gives us the shot of antizin and we snap back to reality. Rais sends some of his men to take us down. However, Jade fends them off alone, inevitably turning into a viral and attacking us, after which we take her out respectfully. Tahir is then sent out to kill us, but I take a good few jabs at him until he pussies out and summons some minions to do his dirty work. We then die for a 5th time and make quick work of them afterwards by grabbing and throwing our weapons again and again. After the others are dealt with, we take Tahir down pretty quickly and easily, which we retrieve the tissue samples from, and take out Tahir before leaving the museum. Before continuing, I farm a few supply crates to get the survivor level 12 and unlock the grappling hook, which will make our lives way easier for what is coming next. Our next task is to climb this massive antenna tower to install an amplifier, which will allow us to reach the outside world through radio signals to prevent the destruction of Harran. Turn on this switch, and get intentionally exploded by a falling elevator. We then climb all the way to the top of the tower, install the amplifier, just in time to stop the airstrikes from being dropped. And then take this zipline down to take a quick look at the Plants vs. Zombie Easter egg, because it's awesome, before we finally meet up with Dr. Camden and hand him over the tissue samples we acquired. We then try to contact the GRE, but it seems Rais has picked up our signal and informs us that he's waiting for the GRE to pick him up at his tower. Once we make it back to the main city and to Rais' tower, we are met with a few obstacles and parkour courses to take us to him. I drop down this sewer system and obliterate this child before consuming a speed booster and running through the volatile infested sewer system. At the end, I climb onto this ladder, run towards the sewer's exit, and make it to the arena, where Rais drops a nuke near us before climbing up and entering an elevator. Rais then decides to play up some elevator music while we ascend slowly. After making it to the top, we inhale another speed booster and rush through the last few floors of the tower, where we meet the now dying Kareem, telling us to avoid the upper floors as they are covered in mines. Thanks, Kareem. Rais then shoots on the crane we are running on, but we make it to the other tower without breaking a sweat. Once on top of the building, we meet Rais in our final standoff. He holds the disc over the ledge as a threat, throws it to us, and then throws a small dagger into our shoulder, after which he pushes away the disc and charges at us, forcing us to correctly time a few button presses until we use his machete against him and insert it into his own guts. We then throw away his machete instead of killing him, which will definitely not backfire. Yeah, it backfired. While dangling, we hand Rais the drive. He promises a painless death. However, we decide to reverse the roles and end up giving him a painful death instead. We make it to a slightly safer spot as the jury tries to negotiate a deal before being turned down and forced to leave without any of the research. This concludes the story of Dying Light, and this is where we finish our playthrough, ending with a total of 5 deaths and completing all the challenges that were set earlier on in the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know if you like content like this, and what I should do or play next. Now excuse me while I go ice my pinky toe.